Hi, Beth.
Hi.
Come on in. Have a seat. So before we start our session, I just want to clarify that you signed the confidentiality form and you know all the procedures for the form, stating our confidentiality within whatever is said in the session stays in the session. And yeah, we can begin. So what brings you today?
Well, I walked in on my boyfriend with a girl. He was cheating on me. This girl is someone that we've thought about before. I've seen her name on his phone several times. He's one of her best friends on Snapchat. She kind of has a bit of a reputation, and yeah, this is something I saw coming. He told me, no, this would never happen, and then I walked in on them yesterday.
And you seem pretty calm right now, but you also seem very emotional about it, and yeah.
I don't know what to do. Like, this is something that I've worried about, and he just keeps saying, nope, it's never going to happen, and I guess now it is, and I'm kind of in shock, kind of not, don't really know what to do.
Well, I could see how you'd be in shock. Yes, I'm very sorry to hear this has happened to you. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you walked in on exactly?
Well, I came home, I saw a vehicle outside, and it looked like one of his buddies, so I went in the house, and he comes running downstairs in his boxers, and he's all sweaty and panting, and he's like, don't go upstairs. So obviously I'm going to go upstairs, because like, why should I not be going upstairs? And I walk upstairs, and I see the behind of this girl, Heather, and obviously I knew what was going on. She wasn't wearing any clothes, and she was just standing there, and she wouldn't turn around. She just stood there, and so I just left. I didn't know what to do. I just left. And
wow.
I haven't talked to him since.
And that would be a big shock. You come home, and then you find someone you're meant to be with, you feel, and then you walk in on that. Yeah. Wow. And you seem like you're very strong about it too right now.
Yeah, I think I'm mad more than anything. I don't know. I just feel betrayed, I guess.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I would feel betrayed too if I were you.
Yeah.
Tell me more about how long this has been going on for, that you were telling me about the Snapchats, the texting.
I would say for at least 6 months that I've noticed a lot. I mean, he's always talked to other girls and whatever, and that's fine. But like, it's been within the last 6 months that I really noticed that this girl is always on his phone, and it's always her that he's talking to, and that I've noticed like the best friend on Snapchat thing is definitely within the last 6 months that it's gotten progressively worse, I guess.
Okay. How long have you and Brandon been together?
Next April it'll be 6 years.
So you guys have been dating quite a long time.
Yeah.
And this is, remind me, this has just been going on for the last 6 months?
6 months with this girl. I mean, there's been things in the past, but nothing really serious. Nothing's ever come out of it. But then this time, it clearly culminated into something. And like, I don't know how long this was been going on with her. Like I said, I haven't talked to him about it. I was just mad, and I just left, and I don't know what to do.
Well, and good for you for getting out of there when you can't feel like you couldn't control your emotions. Is that why you were?
Yeah, I felt like it was welling all up inside of me, and I didn't know what to do, and I knew I was gonna freak out, so I just left.
Well, which is completely understandable, of course. Do you know this Heather very well that Brandon's been talking to?
I went to high school with the girl, so I do know her, hung around her a little bit, but don't know her as a person that well. I do know she's quite a reputation for sleeping with guys with girlfriends, and I know that's just kind of how she is, and she doesn't really seem to be like that great of a person.
Well, yeah, I could see that, of course, where someone that doesn't, like you said, have a good reputation.
Yeah, she just seems to not have any respect for relationships, is really what I think.
And that's a big issue too, right?
Yeah.
So you were telling me that Heather, this has just escalated in the last 6 months, but there has been previous girls in your relationship that...
Yeah, I would say he talked to them. They were more people from his high school. We didn't go to the same high school, so I didn't know where he stood with them. So like, I questioned it, and he always just kind of brushed it off. But I don't know now. It makes me question whether or not maybe something was going on with these other girls or not. I don't know.
And before, did you brush that off with the other girls, or how did you cope differently?
I feel like I tried to brush it off, but I think it just progressively like gnawed at me, and then now with this, it's kind of exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bothered me the whole time, but I kind of tried to forget about it.
And how long have you been living together now?
For about a year.
For about a year.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been back to the house yet?
No.
No.
I haven't talked to him. I haven't gone to the house. I've been at my parents' house just because I don't even know what to say. I don't know where I stand.
Tell me more about, what do you mean you don't know where you stand?
I don't know. I guess I don't know where I stand in the relationship. I don't know if I want to sit down and talk to him and try to work it out. I don't know if I just want to leave. I don't know if it's because if I'm mad that I feel like I just want to leave, and I just don't know where I am emotionally.
Okay.
I'm a little lost. I just don't have no direction.
So it sounds like you're trying to take a step back to go over everything, that you're trying to figure out what your next step is. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out, see the big picture, but I just can't seem to figure out what that is.
Yeah. Do you have many supports, family, friends that you've been talking to at all?
Yeah, I have my parents. I haven't really said much to them. It's kind of hard talking to them because I always feel like I'm defending him against them. But my friends, I have 4 really great friends that I always talk to about everything. They basically know our whole relationship. So I have had them to talk to, but as of right now, I've just been venting.
Yeah. And that's a good strategy. That's a coping strategy, venting to your friends. Talking about it is a great way of coping with everything. So good for you for doing that and being able to talk about it. It is a hard thing to go and talk to someone about, especially coming to talk to me. You're already building a step right there in your coping strategies, and you're learning, coming to get a different opinion as well.
Yeah.
So now that you've came to the counseling session, I just want to go over your story. So you and Brandon have been dating for 6 years, close to 6 years.
Yeah, almost 6
years. And you guys have done a lot together. There's been issues in the past with other girls, but seems to me that it's brushed off. You both kind of avoided it more, and moved on.
Yeah.
And now this girl has walked in the last 6 months, and she is obviously made a connection with Brandon, and has not shown you respect. Neither has Brandon. By the sounds of it, the way you've been explaining this to me, and you walked in on him and her. Clearly there's intimacy going on, and you walked out, and now you're here to get some answers and some feedback of maybe a next step. Is that what you think your goal is for counseling?
Yeah, definitely a next step to see where, I guess I want to know what I should do that's best for me. Because at this point, I don't know if I want to go forward in a relationship that maybe is built on mistrust. Like, I'm just feeling very betrayed, and like that trust is pretty well crumbled. Yeah,
so you feeling betrayed. You're obviously, you were saying you were shocked when it happened, but you knew they'd been talking for the last 6 months. But did you think this was going to be something that happened in the past with all the other girls? It was just going to be brushed off?
Yeah, I think I just thought, oh, it's just another one of those girls that he's just going to talk to, and then it's just going to fizzle out, and nothing's ever going to happen. I guess I just never thought it would happen to me. Like, it's just not going to happen to me. It would never happen. And then it did, so I think that's where the shock came from.
Can you tell me more about how you were feeling when a different girl would come up, and each time, and how did you go about that? Like, do you think that happens to a lot of relationships? It's normal, or has this happened to you before?
I feel like it's normal to a certain extent. Previous relationships, you may not know the girl, but then you talk to them, and then I feel like previously in a different relationship, they've explained to me exactly who they are, and then I've met them, and I feel like that's different. For him, a few of them have been like that, but then some of them, he just doesn't want to tell me anything about them. It's just a girl, he would say. It's just a girl. She's just a friend. She's no one. Don't worry about her. And that, I think that's what made me kind of worry, is
Okay.
that some of them I had met and he had told me all about. He's like, well, this is my friend from high school. She's blah, blah, blah. And then I'd meet her. And then I would be able to put a face to the name and we would talk. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, like she's cool. Like she's a friend. But then some of these girls, it's been like, oh, don't worry about it. You don't need to know who she is. And that's kind of been like with Heather. It was like, you don't need to know. It's fine. Clearly it wasn't.
Yeah, and sometimes you just can't predict what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
So, overall, you're feeling betrayed.
Mhm.
Would you say you're still in shock about it? Or
I think I'm coming down from that. I think now that I'm looking back in hindsight, like it's pretty predictable. Like it wasn't, like I saw it coming, I just never, I guess in that moment, I just never actually thought it would happen to me.
well, yeah, and you also like probably, as the way you were felt that way, it was probably you had trust for him as well.
Yeah.
Is that part of the reason why?
Yeah, I think so.
So do you feel a lack of trust now?
Yeah, definitely. Like I feel like now I'm questioning a lot of the things that's happened in the past. I'm questioning a lot of nights that maybe he didn't come home when he said he was going to, or stuff like that. Like was he actually where he told me he was? I don't know.
So, and you would also like to move on from thinking that way from the past. You don't, because you're confused.
Yeah, like I don't want every single time that he goes somewhere that I'm not with him that I'm gonna be like, well, what is he doing this time? Like, who is he with this time? Like, that's not how I want my life to be. I don't want to constantly be worrying about it.
Now, with you and him in this whole situation that's happened, since you've been thinking the last little while about it, would you want to see him in your life still? Or are you also wanting to come here to see if you are ready to move on? Or what is your overall expectation at this point?
I think I don't know what I want, because there's parts of him that I obviously love, and like I can't imagine not having those parts and those times and those memories like in my life moving forward. But at the same time, do I deserve to be treated like that? Do I deserve to go forward and not have that trust or have that mutual respect for each other? Like I'm just kind of torn between the good that I remember and obviously the bad that's come apart from it. It's like I don't know.
And that's something you also need to think about. You need to think about, this is who I am. And you know yourself the best out of anyone, right?
Yeah.
So we have to weigh the pros and cons here. Do you want to be treated like that? Do you want to lose trust, or do you want to try to gain it back? Or are you going to be worried that it's going to happen again and that maybe you should move on? So today I think is a good day to make the pros and cons of what you're feeling right now, because you're confused obviously and you want a next step. So today, for a goal and an action plan, would you agree with weighing out the pros and cons to make a next step?
Yeah, because I think that's where I'm at. I don't have a decision. I don't know what to do. So yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good idea too. So you were saying previously that you've been at your mom and dad's for the last few days, and you haven't even been back to the house. You haven't had any contact with him.
No.
Is that something you are thinking about doing next? Is that another confusion? You don't know if you should contact him or not?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know what to say to him. Like, I don't know how to start a conversation. He gets very defensive. And I just feel like as soon as I talk to him, he's going to be very defensive and make all these kinds of excuses and not own up to it. And I just feel like I'm avoiding that whole conversation. Like, I just don't want to have it with him because I know exactly how it's going to go.
Well, which is completely understandable too, right? Because this is something that you didn't think was going to happen to you, and good for you for you are really thinking well through this process. As much as that's happened so far, you are thinking very well, and I'm glad that you're doing that. And coming here is we're only gonna gain more confidence, and we'll we can make an action plan together that'll settle this. So for a next step, let's weigh the pros and cons.
Mhm.
So we could start with going back to him and moving on.
Okay.
So going back to him, what are some of the pros of going back to Brandon?
I think a lot of the pros were like all the good times that we do have together. Like waking up in the morning and he's always there, and sometimes like he just does cute little things, like he'll make me breakfast in bed, or he takes me on sporadic trips here and there. Like even just like little things, like a sporadic picnic or something like that. Like he was always very thoughtful and stuff like that, and it always made me feel really special.
Well, of course it would. Like that's how you should be treated, right?
Yeah.
Personality, love connection wise.
Mhm.
How did you two connect? Would that be a pro?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel like you connected well overall?
I would say yes, but the now that this whole thing's happened, like it's making me question that.
Okay, so that could be a con for going back to him.
Yeah, because of the whole trust thing, I feel like you can't have that connection and that love within the trust.
Mm-hmm.
So
So the con would be that the trust is broken.
Yeah.
So that trust needs to be regained.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else you could think of for going back to him? Any worries or positives?
I don't know. I guess positive. Like we have a dog, and it just feels like a family. Like I just started my own little family, and like by leaving, I'm gonna break that family up, right?
Yeah.
And I know it's just a dog, but still.
Yeah. What about for cons that you were talking to me before? More girls might come into the picture.
Yeah, I
It
think
could happen again.
Yeah, I think it's just that lack of trust thing. Like not knowing, even just like say like a girl at work or something like that. Like I'm gonna question all of that. Like he's spending all day with this girl, or if a name comes up on his phone, like I feel like all of those things I'm gonna be very worried about, and I don't know if I'll ever actually get to enjoy the good parts if I'm constantly worrying about the bad.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
So would you say the pros or cons going back to him? Which one weighs heavier? Pros or?
I guess the cons. It's just really hard to see that.
Oh, it truly is. Like this all just happened to you and it still hasn't sunk in, and I get it. And as you think about more, I'm sure there'll be more pros and cons that come up too.
Yeah.
That
Of course.
yeah, and we could obviously wait for another counseling session to discuss that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what if you moved on? The pros and cons.
I don't know, I guess the cons, I lose that 6 years that I had with him, like all those good memories. Like I know I'm not going to make any more of them. I'm obviously going to miss him. I don't know where I would start with moving on.
Which is understandable.
Yeah,
You've been in that relationship for 6 years. It's you've been in it for so long. People don't.
Yeah, I guess I don't know where I would start. So those would be the cons. But I guess the pros, like I wouldn't be constantly worried about the person that I'm supposed to be with and love and have a partnership in life with, that they're always going to be cheating on me. I feel like that would be a huge toll on me, and not having that would definitely lift a weight off my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I just don't know where to go. I guess I could stay at my parents' house, but
I think that would be a good idea too. That would be that would help your coping, and that'd be a good strategy to still giving that space away.
Mm-hmm.
For a next step, would you consider having a discussion with Brandon, like meeting up, talking face to face, maybe at a coffee shop or something, and discuss the situation?
well, yeah, I think we have to at some point talk. But yeah, I think maybe you're right in the whole public place, because I feel like if we meet at the house or somewhere private, the conversation's not going to go well. I feel like he's just going to get mad and defensive, where in the public place he may be a little bit more calm and be able to actually talk things out instead of just getting mad.
Sounds like he's got a short temper. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, especially when I guess he's in the wrong, or at least I feel like he's in the wrong. All he does is defend himself. Like, in his eyes, he's never done anything wrong. He'd probably come up with something why he did it and how it was okay. Like, he just never seems to take responsibility for things like that.
Okay.
So it's really frustrating to try to have a conversation about it, because there is no conversation. It's just talking to a wall, basically.
So, do you both also argue about that? You say that he feels like he's never in the wrong, and that it affects you, obviously.
Yeah. No, I guess a lot of times when we fight about stuff or fight about that, like, I just kind of give up. I just leave it, because there's no point. Because I don't get anything back. So I feel like we're not moving forward in our conversations.
So you feel like that's a lot when you fight, that you both try to, instead of sitting down trying to solve the problem, and eventually you just kind of drop the subject?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we don't get anywhere.
Yeah. And that's one thing you could also discuss with him if you meet up and talk. That's a big thing about relationships, about working out that problem, right?
Yeah.
And obviously no problem is easy to fix. There's a reason you're arguing, right?
Yeah.
And trying to find a solution. So would you agree that a next step would be talking to Brandon out in a public setting?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. I like to set timelines for stuff like this to happen, and I know it's just happened and everything. When do you feel you'll be confident enough to even call or text him and be like, hey, can we meet up? When do you think?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever feel ready, but I feel like within the next few days makes sense, because I don't want to leave it so long and stew about it, and I don't feel like that's really going to help me any. So I'd probably say within the next few days, I would probably want to do that, just so I don't keep sitting here and stewing over it and wondering what's going to happen, I guess.
Yeah, because that plays some stress on you, right? Like it's just like that continuous stress, and then you still don't know where to turn. It's like you need to finally figure out a plan of action to take, and that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
That's why you came, right?
Yeah.
Finding a goal and a plan of action. So would you agree maybe in 3 days' time?
Yeah.
You could text him and...
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that'll give me enough time to plan out what I want to say, and I think it's a good idea.
Okay. So some things before you go in there, because you know how sometimes you go into the conversation and you were saying, like, earlier, you said it a few times, that you don't know where to start in the conversation. So would you like to brainstorm for that conversation a couple of things that you want to talk about first with Brandon?
Yeah, maybe that would be a good idea. Give me somewhere at least to start.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and after we talk about it, you go home, and so a strategy also could be for you to write it down, and so you really don't forget it. Would you agree to do that?
Yeah, writing things down would be good, because then at least if I get flustered, I have somewhere to
lean
reference.
back on. Yes.
Yeah, because I feel like those conversations are always very flustered.
Yeah.
And confusing.
So what's one of your biggest stressors since the situation went down? What's one thing you want to get off your chest?
Definitely the first thing is the trust and the lying. So I guess I definitely want to talk to him about him lying to me, and then now I don't trust him. I guess that would be like the number one thing I would really want to talk to him about.
I agree. I think that's a great place to start.
I just don't know how I would say that without coming off.
Okay, well, you could start it off by just approaching him and being like, look, we both know what I walked in on. and you could tell him how you're feeling.
Yeah.
You could tell him, like, would you agree?
Yeah, if I start and tell him exactly how that made me feel, I guess.
Yeah. And then you'd be saying you felt betrayed, and that could bring up the trust issue we should talk about. So there's one thing you could write down when you get home. What's something else that's been bothering you? It could be just tension that's built up.
Yeah, I think clearly over the last few days I haven't talked to him. I feel like there's a lot of tension between us. I feel like we're not communicating effectively at all, or even communicating because I haven't talked to him. So I feel like I should talk to him about that. About, I guess, communicating better, and then I guess also I want to talk to him about, like, when we are fighting, that wall that he puts up, and I think those would be like the three things that I would want to address.
I think that's great. And I think those three things would be a conversation you two could have together. And I think that's good just to start there, because obviously it's going to be a big conversation. And those pieces, those are your three biggest factors we've been discussing today. Depends how he reacts to those, and if he agrees or disagrees with you. I think that will determine your next step. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I guess I can see how he reacts and what his thoughts are on it. And then I guess from there I'll probably have a better idea of what I want in the future.
Okay, I agree. I think we've made a lot of progress today in just our first counseling session. Do you find that way? Do you feel...
I feel like I have a little bit more clarity.
Okay.
I feel like I kind of have a starting point, and I think that's what I needed.
Good.
I still don't know what's going to happen or whatever, but at least I have somewhere to start and go from there.
Yeah, and we just want to take steps at a time, right?
Yeah.
So as I was discussing with you about timelines,
Yeah.
you said you're going to contact him within the next few days?
Yeah.
And have a conversation?
Yeah.
So would you want to come back after you do have your conversation? Would you feel comfortable? Would you like to come back and talk again about a next step and tell me how that went?
Yeah, I feel like after I get his feedback and stuff, I think it'd be good just to be able to hash it out with someone else and kind of bounce ideas off of them. Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
And then from there we could come up with the next step if that's what you really need, and if you're still don't have clarity. So, well, Bethany, we have made great progress today, and I'm so happy you came to talk to me. You do have a path laid out for you. I think it's, we'll take it from there, and I really look forward to speaking to you next week about how the conversation went.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Walk you.